All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Project Fire Hazard. If you haven't been keeping up on the build, this is a Pontiac Fiero that we are taking the 2.8 V6 out of, yoinking it, and we are stuffing 5.3 liters of LS goodness in there and eventually putting a turbo on it. So in the last video, we got the cradle dropped. That really wasn't too bad. We had to do that for two reasons. Obviously, it's much easier to get the engine bolted up and make the mounts and everything for the subframe and do all that while it's out of the car, and because we needed to inspect some of the rust in the car. Let me get this thing lifted back up, because it do be having a little cancer. But I think that I can fix it. I need to pull these inner fender liners out to inspect some other stuff, but I think that'll be okay. The strut tower still looks good, so I think we're fine there. So I think what we're gonna do in this one is, as much as I would like to just leave this exactly where it is so it's easier to line up, I think we're gonna have to move it around a little bit, and then we'll start disconnecting the engine, get that pulled off, and then get the LS just sat in there so that we can come up with an idea for motor mounts, try to see about possible starter solutions, because in a perfect world, what I'd like to do is reuse the stock transmission. Now, do I expect the stock transmission to live forever behind a turbo LS making 500 to 600 horsepower? No, not at all. But what I do expect using the stock transmission to do is save a lot of money and hopefully a lot of fabrication in the meantime. Because to do a transmission swap, I want to keep the car manual, no doubt about that. So it's like, sure, we could just get a 4T60 or a 4T80 and that solves a lot of the starter issues. Well, pretty much all the starter issues. But I think that this car would be significantly better with a manual transmission. So that's why I want to keep what we have. We know that it works. The speedometer works. We know that the axles fit, obviously. Everything like that. To do a transmission swap, first of all, finding a transmission. They're out there. There's junkyards that have them, but they're like, even at a junkyard. Someone told me about this place called car-part.com, and basically it's like a big website that all the junkyards that list their cars and parts and everything, it cross-references all of them, like pretty much all over the United States, and I think there was some in Canada too. Don't quote me on that. But basically you can just type in what kind of car, what part you want. So it's like in my case, I was looking up like 2007 or 8 Pontiac G6s with manual transmission. The cheapest one I could find was like $600 or $700, and it was somewhere in Ohio. In the grand scheme of things, $700, not that bad, but all the associated costs with it kind of do suck. But you do get the added advantage of a transmission that can hold a lot more horsepower. So if we can make this work, I would like to run this, at least for the time being, and we'll see what we can do. All right, so I'm sure that there's a few of you guys that are like, enough talking, let's get to work. So let's start pulling the engine out and just see what we can see. I did it probably the most pain in the ass way I could think of, but we got it out. And check this out. Doesn't that pattern look familiar? Oh ho ho. Looky looky. So now I need to take the pressure plate off, clutch, flywheel, and then I can set it on the stand, and we'll probably take a few measurements just to have them on note. I really wish that I had a scale to hang them from just to see personally what the weight is. But yeah, we can get the clutch and everything pulled off that, get it on the stand, take a couple measurements just to see, and then we'll just mock the engine up in here. Like we'll try to set it in place, do just 1 or 2 bolts, just see how everything fits, try to take note of everything. I'm hoping, let me take a look, because you can see that the starter here is right below that dowel. Where is it here? See, the dowel's here, so there might be room to put a starter here. And if there is, that would be sick. Let's take a quick, there's about a thumb's distance, and a little, probably about 3/4 of a pinky. So we might be able to just shave that block where just this meat is, and then make a plate to bolt the starter, which would be so rad. All right, that took entirely too long. Jesus. But now we can see them side by side. So I think that this is just a, yeah, it's just a physically taller engine stand. But I got the bell housings pretty close to inline, like as close as I could get it. It is basically the same as that with the accessories, which is really good, because what that means is the front pulley that goes with the LS4, where is it? This one is one of the tightest ones. Like, I think this might be closer than the Corvette one. Like, it actually goes like way up to it. And then I can tuck the alternator in here, and I'm going to be putting an electric water pump on this thing. So it's going to be real similar to this. But let's try to get an actual measurement. Okay. So this is to the pulley. We'll call that 22. To the end of the bolt is, God, like right at 23 right now. Let's see, how can I'll measure from the ground to the oil pan. That is about 20, about 46. So it's about 26 inches, right? Now we'll do the same thing with this. Try to. These aren't going to be the best measurements because I'm kind of eyeballing while I'm filming. So that's about 30, about 48 and a half. So it's about 28 and a half. Plus we still have the oil pan, which to start with, I might try the truck pan, which I think will be too low. I'll probably end up having to put like an F-body pan on it. Actually, what am I talking about? I could use the stock LS4 pan. I'm an idiot. Yeah, because that thing's pretty nice and open, and we've got hopefully plenty of room here. I might have to cut that mount off and redo it, because you can see that bolted right there, which was give or take 17 and a half inches from the back, which will, yeah, it'll probably be like right in here, which is right where the oil pan's gonna want to be. So I might just hack that off, and then it probably wouldn't be too big of a deal to build a mount that triangulates these and then comes up to the side of the block, and then I could almost just reuse this mount. So let's get that cut off real quick, just do a couple bolts to hold the oil pan on, and then I think we'll set the engine in and just take a look at how everything fits, see if the starter will work. All right, got the engine in, and it actually fits. I mean, the front is actually sitting on the cradle right there, but I think if I just lift it up even a quarter of an inch, it'll be totally fine. And then as far as motor mounts, I think that will be surprisingly easy, because like I said earlier, I will be able to just make a plate for that I can weld here, weld there, and should work out pretty easy. I actually might use... let me show you. I actually might just use these. That way I can unbolt them, and then it'll make, hopefully I won't have to take the engine in and out a bunch, but if it comes to it, I've always found these to be a lot easier than having a plate welded straight to them. They're not welded, but a solid plate that just bolts right to the motor, and then you have to unbolt it there. Sometimes you want to have like that little bit of room to wiggle, and with those plates there's no room at all. So I'll probably end up just using one of these. I might modify it because I imagine I'll want a little bit of travel for that axle just to be safe. But yeah, that actually, it fits. I mean, I knew it would, but so the issue now is the starter. And what do I do here? I wish that I had put the flex plate back on the motor. If I was not such an idiot, I would have done that so that I could see how far it is from there, just to get an idea of things. What I want to do is put the starter here and get a different oil pan. And if I were to use this oil pan, I would have to notch the cradle here for the oil filter, which isn't a big deal at all. So yeah, the biggest thing is definitely going to be figuring out the starter, which I knew that going in. Water pump, like I said earlier, I'm just going to use an electric pump, and then we'll just have like the 12 AN or something, 16 AN, probably 12 AN fittings right off the front of the motor. And then for the accessory, I'll just copy the bracket that Justin Pickard made and mount the alternator right there by itself, and that'll just tension, it'll just be like a single drive belt. And then from there, ooh, see? This is why mock-up is great. One thing I didn't think about is the intake on this is going to want to go backwards, and that's right where the shift cables are. So let me get the lift plate off. We'll just set the intake on it and see how that's going to be, because we might end up having to run a different intake. Actually, I was hoping to run that one, but it looks like it might not work, and I don't really want to modify hardly anything with that. Alright, got the intake on it, and man, is it going to be close, because these cables are going to want to run basically just like that. If I have a silicone coupler here, odds are it'll probably be fine. Let me find the shift cables. Uh-oh, I think I accidentally did a shift cable delete. Where did I tuck them? Oh, they're way up there. They look pretty slender though, so I think it'll actually clear. I'm pretty sure it'll clear. So I think we're still a go on that. Fitment there all looks fine. I mean, it should, because like I said, I'm not the first person to do this swap. I'm not reinventing the orgasm or anything. Something I do want to test fit though is headers. This side shouldn't be an issue at all. This side really depends on how I want to run things, huh? Let me go grab some headers real quick. Alright, so let's go with the easiest to get to holes. Alright, so obviously that one's not gonna work. But while I'm here, you're not even the right fucking one. What am I doing? Idiot. Alright, so obviously that header's not gonna work without some major modification. I'll probably just order a different set. But it got me wondering if the old turbo kit off the RX-7 is even remotely close. So I grabbed it. Now I feel like we both already know the answer to this is a resounding no, because it should put the turbo somewhere in here. And I can't flip it around because I had it go under the front balancer. But you know, for poops and chuckles, let's see. Yeah, that's a no, dog. That's a big no. Alright, so I was just playing around with some different ideas, and this is kind of what I came up with so far. Obviously not permanent. A lot of stuff would have to be modified to make fit, but it's just fun to look at. So check it out. This is the old turbo off the RX-7, and that's the passenger side turbo header off the Monte Carlo. But, like I said, it's just fun to look at. This isn't how I would want the turbo sitting. I'd want it kind of up here, because this car isn't going to be like a race car or anything like that. I just want it to look really nice. And you'll be happy to know that with this angled silicone coupler, the shift cable should clear no problem, which is muy bien. But yeah, you can't tell me that doesn't just look cool, because it does. I think that once I find a set of manifolds, it won't be an issue at all to build a pipe that comes around and then merge into a T4 flange. But yeah, I think the next step is I will probably try to shift everything back to where it was, because pulling the engine out, I moved it a little bit. And actually, what I might do first is we'll get the engine bay pretty stripped, and then we'll drop the body down on the cradle and see how everything fits. I don't know if that's going to be tomorrow's video, but it will be sometime this week. But either way, hope you guys stay tuned. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for subscribing, clicking that bell. I'll see you next time.